welcome to episode 2 of Donnerstag Daily. Here goes the news. The defense is arrested in former President Donald Trump's hush money trial in New York, where he's accused of making illicit payments to silence allegations of an affair during his 2016 campaign. The prosecution was arguing these payments violated campaign finance laws and sought to hold Trump accountable. Yep, after several days of resting in court, Donald Trump and his defense team will finally rest. They must have ran out of alternative facts for their argument. Apparently, they thought his combination of rambling, farting, and napping was more persuasive than any legal argument. Speaking of sketchy money, the U.S. Department of Justice has just filed a lawsuit against Ticketmaster and Live Nation, alleging that they operate an illegal monopoly that inflates ticket prices and stifles competition in the live entertainment industry. This suit is claiming their practices harm consumers and artists alike, calling for significant changes to their business operations. In the best news for concert goers since the advent of earplugs, Ticketmaster and Live Nation are being sued for monopoly practices, with extra charges they have adding up sometimes to more than the tickets themselves. Those convenience fees are about as convenient as a root canal. This defense is going to crash like their website does during major ticket releases. But speaking of justice, a $2 million settlement has been reached for the families of victims in the Uvalde school shooting, resolving claims of negligence against local law enforcement. The settlement is aiming to provide some measure of justice and closure for the families affected by the tragic event. I know it's a drop in the bucket compared to the loss, but $2 million in Uvalde is the first step towards justice. Let's just hope the next steps come quicker than that police response. I mean, 2 mil is the going rate for police negligence nowadays. Maybe someday accountability and prevention could come with a price tag, too. Speaking of settlements, Houston's storms settled in with a vengeance. Severe storms in Houston, Texas have caused extensive power outages, leaving thousands without electricity and raising concerns about heat risks as temperatures rise. Emergency services are working around the clock to restore power and ensure the safety of residents. That's right. Texas's major power outages. I guess it's time for some old-fashioned entertainment, like staring at the wall. The state's grid reliability is starting to look as solid as a soap bubble. Their new slogan should be, "Everything is bigger in Texas," especially the blackout zones. Speaking of being left in the dark, these Iowa tornadoes certainly made sure nobody knew which way was up. Deadly tornadoes struck in Iowa, resulting in significant damage, multiple fatalities, widespread disruption, and rescue and recovery operations underway as communities grapple with the aftermath of the severe weather. So, Iowa tornadoes. Nature's way of reminding everyone to invest in better basement decor. Tornadoes so intense that wind turbines are going airborne, and corn's popping on the stalk. Cows started auditioning for the sequel to Twister. Local scarecrows filing for early retirement. Even Dorothy is like, "No thanks, I'll stay in Kansas." Speaking of turbulent, the Olympic swimming trials are stirring up, and the competition is about to get fierce. Yep, preparations are underway, with athletes from across the nation training intensively to secure their spots in the U.S. Olympic team. The trials, set to take place next month, are highly anticipated as a showcase of the country's top swimming talent. The Olympic swimming trials are around the corner, time for swimmers to show off their skills and for everyone else to realize they should stick to treading water. The perfect chance to watch athletes swim faster than we run from our responsibilities. Speaking of fierce competition, Memorial Day travelers are in for a battle of their own against traffic jams and crowded airports. As the holiday approaches, officials have released travel tips to help Americans navigate the busy weekend, emphasizing safety and efficiency. Travelers are advised to plan ahead, expect delays, and stay informed about weather and traffic conditions. So the travel tips are out for Memorial Day. Tip 1, prepare to sit in traffic longer than it took to even plan the trip. The best tip, learn to enjoy the scenic view of the bumper in front of you. And a final tip, remember no amount of road rage will make that traffic move any faster. Speaking of travel chaos, Californians are taking a trip to Droughtville with the new water restrictions. These are implemented in the state as they battle severe drought conditions. They're aiming to conserve water resources and address the ongoing environmental crisis affecting millions of residents. So California's new water restrictions are so tight, you'll be lucky if you can water your cacti without being fined. The only thing that's freely right now over there is traffic. That's right, folks. Soon, Californians will have little else to bathe in but their own frustrated tears, forcing a choice between a green lawn or a clean car. Spoiler alert, you get none. Soon, the state flower will be the tumbleweed. Speaking of restrictions, Federal Reserve's new interest rate decision is going to restrict everyone's spending power. They're expected to announce a new interest rate decision that could have widespread implications for mortgages, savings accounts, and the broader economy. Economists and investors are closely watching the announcement for signals about the future of U.S. monetary policy. So they're playing limbo with our savings accounts. In a decision less exciting than watching paint dry, my retirement plan just rebranded as Work Until I Die. It's like getting a pay cut at a job you already hate. Speaking of blooming crises, corpse flower at Colorado State University is going to bloom for the first time, drawing interest from botanists and the public. Known for its foul odor, the blooming event is a rare and notable occurrence in the botanical world. This corpse flower, what an oxymoron. The event of the season, though, for those who enjoy the smell of rotting flesh, it's Mother Nature's sense of humor really stinks. It's the only flower that made you wish you had a clothespin for your nose and a clothespin for your clothespin. It's a once in a decade event, though, like cleaning out your car's cup holders. Both of them can get pretty grimy. The defense mechanism is so defensive, it's offensive. Yeah. So, speaking of strong defenses, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has announced new measures to bolster border security in response to increased migrant crossings. These measures include additional funding for border enforcement and the deployment of more National Guard troops. So, Abbott is rolling out new border security measures. Apparently, he thinks a few more fences will do what years of policy could not. Next up, he'll solve Texas's drought by installing sprinklers on the border. I guess it's easier than addressing healthcare, education, or infrastructure, though. Take your pick. He might just start charging admission. Welcome to Texas borderland. Speaking of new measures, new antitrust bill targeting major tech companies like Amazon and Google is making its way through Congress. Legislation seeks to prevent monopolistic practices and promote fair competition in the technology sector. The antitrust bill targets Amazon and Google. Apparently, monopolies are no good unless they're donating to political campaigns. And with this new antitrust bill, maybe now they'll stop treating Jeff Bezos like the second coming. Because when you let companies get too big, they start thinking they own the government. Oh, wait, they do. Let's see how far they get before those tech giants start funding their opponents. See if they can actually follow through before the next election cycle donations. And speaking of cracking down, crime rates in the New York City subway system have surged, also prompting increased police presence and safety measures. Authorities are implementing new strategies to curb the rise in violent incidents and ensure commuter safety. With the ascending crime rates in the subway system, the only thing more dangerous than the third rail is the person sitting next to you. Even the graffiti artists are asking for hazard pay here. Looks like the only thing scarier than missing your stop is getting off at it. Speaking of surges, more economic turbulence. High-level trade talks between U.S. and China are set to resume, focusing on tariffs, intellectual property rights, and economic cooperation. The outcome of these discussions could significantly impact global trade dynamics. Trade negotiations between the U.S. and China are starting again. This international equivalent of trying to pick a restaurant with your girl. Endless debates, no agreement. It's two cats with a mouse, lots of noise, not much resolution. Like a never-ending ping-pong match, but without the excitement. Speaking of turbulence, this will shake things up here. The Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling on a major environmental case, which is setting new precedents for federal regulations. This decision could actually reshape how environmental policies are implemented and enforced across the country, and also might make politicians as concerned about the planet as they are about their next election. Even the dinosaurs are rolling in their fossil fuel graves. They finally realize you can't appeal climate change. Speaking of shaking things up, lawmakers are pushing forward with new healthcare reform proposals aimed at expanding access and reducing costs. These reforms seek to address systemic issues in the U.S. healthcare system and improve patient outcomes. So, new healthcare reform proposals. Another chance for politicians to get to play doctor without a medical degree. Maybe soon they'll find a solution that doesn't involve selling a kidney to pay for a checkup. Something better than a band aid on a shark bite. Maybe they'll realize that GoFundMe isn't a sustainable healthcare plan. Speaking of reforms, government's looking to regulate AI, ensuring our future robot overlords don't go rogue. New regs would address ethical and security concerns. These regulations aim to ensure responsible development and protect the privacy of consumers. These new AI regulations are finally something more modern than the usual 19th century policies. Maybe now they'll figure out that turning it off and on again isn't a comprehensive tech policy. Also, great, because their track record with technology is about as smooth as a dial up connection. At this rate, maybe they'll understand how to send email by 2030. Speaking of oversight, changes proposed for the Department of the VA to improve services and support for military veterans. The overhaul includes plans to enhance healthcare delivery and streamline benefits processing. Hopefully, these changes will arrive faster than their current wait times for appointments. They finally realized thank you for your service needs to come with actual service, not the service with a shrug model or the hurry up and wait strategy. Speaking of overhauls, we've got some gun news here. New gun control legislation is being debated in Congress with significant implications for firearm regulations nationwide. These proposed laws aim to address gun violence and enhance background checks for gun buyers. Congress is debating new gun control laws, okay. So apparently they've finally realized that thoughts and prayers work better with a side of actual legislation. I mean, protecting the citizens is more important than protecting their NRA sponsorships. When you think about it, maybe they finally figured out a well-regulated militia means actual regulating. All right, guys, this is Donnerstag Daily. Good night.